There's a chip running inside a European supercomputer right now that doesn't use electricity to do its math. No transistors, no cooling towers, just light, beams of it threading through the chip, solving equations as a side effect of physics. It sounds impossible. It's live in 2026, and I think it's the start of the biggest shift hardware has seen in decades. To see why, you have to start with a problem the data center industry would rather keep quiet. The energy problem nobody advertises.
This is the big change of the entire industry. All of you in the audience, I know how many of you are here. I want to thank you for making this fundamental shift.
Modern GPUs are extraordinary. The H100, the B200, the entire Blackwell family are genuine feats of engineering, and nobody serious disputes that. But there's a catch buried under all the marketing. Every fresh generation draws more power, throws off more heat, and demands more cooling than the one it replaced. Sit with this figure for a second. Keeping the hardware from cooking itself can swallow as much as 40% of a data center's entire energy bill. That's not the computing. That's not the networking. That's just air conditioning for silicon. And it climbs from there. One large AI service can chew through more than 564 megawatt hours in a single day, roughly 100 times what a typical German home uses in an entire year, burned in 24 hours. Once that number lands, the obvious question is why, and the answer isn't really about power bills at all. It's baked into the way these chips are built. Why silicon is hitting a wall.
Performance of the computer decreases. Why? Because it does not get the data and instruction from the main memory at the pace at which the CPU requires to process it. As a result, there arises a phenomenon which is known as von Neumann bottleneck.
Here's the architectural root of the whole story. Today's GPUs are built on the von Neumann model. You do the math in one place, you keep the data somewhere else, and the chip spends its life shuttling information back and forth between the two. At the scale of a frontier language model, that constant commute costs a staggering amount of energy. Engineers have a name for the bottleneck, the memory wall, and slamming into it feels exactly as ugly as it sounds. Then there's the other ceiling. Moore's law, the comfortable old promise that transistor density doubles every couple of years, has effectively run out of road. We've crammed transistors so tightly together that electrons now leak across barriers they were never meant to cross, a glitch called quantum tunneling. Shrink things far enough and physics quietly switches sides. So silicon is running out of room to grow, which means the industry doesn't need a faster GPU. It needs a different idea about what computation even is. And that idea already exists. It just trades electrons for something faster. How light actually does the math.
Fiber optics and putting it into your computer to do the logic and CPU components. The result of my research will be increasing the bandwidth of computers from gigahertz speeds to terabit per second speeds, which is 1,000 times greater.
That something is light. Photonic chips don't compute with electrons at all. They compute with photons, the particles that make up light, and that single swap rewrites almost everything about how the chip behaves. Light travels faster than electrons crawling through copper. It generates next to no heat on the chip itself. And here's the detail that stopped me cold. A single beam can carry several independent streams of data at once, each writing a different wavelength, which is really just a different color. That trick is called wavelength division multiplexing, and it means that instead of grinding through one matrix multiplication and then the next, you can fire dozens through the very same channel simultaneously. Electrons flat out cannot do that. Light can. The math itself happens through optical interference. When two waves meet, they either reinforce or cancel depending on their phase, and that pattern is the calculation. An entire layer of a neural network resolves in essentially one pass, with no clock ticking, no fetch and execute. The answer just falls out of the light moving through the material. There's something quietly beautiful about that. But beauty doesn't run a data center. The reason this works at all comes down to a single, very specific material. the material that makes it possible.
Looks like it's a man-made transparent crystalline material. Here in my lab, we study lithium niobate photonics.
It's a mouthful. Thin film lithium niobate on insulator, shortened to TFL-NOI. The reason it matters comes down to two properties. First, it can switch and modulate at tens of gigahertz, fast enough to keep up with serious workloads. Second, it responds to electric fields rather than to heat when changing its behavior. That second point sounds like a footnote, but it's enormous. Because the components aren't fighting each other with stray heat, you can pack them far more densely than anything a silicon process allows. And I know what's forming in your head right now. Does this mean developers have to throw out everything they know and start over? The honest answer is no. The teams building these processors have layered compatibility tools on top, so engineers keep writing in Python, PyTorch, TensorFlow, whatever they already trust, and the translation down into optical operations happens quietly underneath. That one decision is what turns this from a lab curiosity into something a real organization might actually adopt, which is exactly what one company in Germany set out to prove. The company at the sharp end, QANT.
When we basically produce thin film lithium niobate wafers, we also basically manufacture chips, we package them.
That company is Q.ANT, a photonics outfit headquartered in Stuttgart, and what they've shipped over the past year would have read as pure fiction not long ago. Back in July 2025, they delivered their first-generation native processing server to the Leibniz Supercomputing Centre, the LRZ, in Garching, Germany. That was the world's first time an analog photonic coprocessor went live inside a real, operational high-performance computing environment. Not a polished demo on a trade show floor. A working facility that actually serves universities and research institutions across Bavaria and the wider country. The fact that it survived contact with real workloads, real users, and real uptime expectations is the entire reason this story is worth telling. Because anyone can impress in a controlled lab, but doing it in production is a different sport. And the first generation, as it turned out, was only the warm-up. The Gen 2 benchmarks that are hard to ignore. Because in March 2026, last month essentially, QANT installed their second generation NPU at the same center, and the numbers that came back out of LRZ are genuinely difficult to wave away. The Gen 2 architecture posted more than 50 times the throughput on matrix multiplications compared to the first chips, and ran inference roughly 25 times faster on a ResNet 18 image recognition network. That's not a polite year-over-year bump. That's a different gear entirely. The headline specs go further still. Up to 90 times lower power consumption per workload and as much as 100 times greater effective data center capacity. The chip throws off zero on-chip heat, which means you can largely forget about the colossal cooling infrastructure that devours so much of a traditional facility's budget. Better yet, it slots in over a standard PCIe interface, so it drops straight into existing racks. No gutting the building, no redesigning the floor. LRZ is already pointing it at real jobs: AI inference, computer vision, and scientific simulations spanning climate modeling and materials research for fusion energy. QANT's CEO put it in a line I keep replaying. What digital computing needed a decade to achieve, photonics reached in a single year. A 50-fold leap in 12 months makes that hard to argue with. And it turns out he's not the only one making that bet. The global race heating up. In fact, the German Federal Research Ministry is backing the project directly, which tells you the government isn't treating photonic computing as a fun science experiment. It's being handled as a matter of national strategic priority. And QANT is far from alone on the board. Chinese research teams out of Tsinghua and Shanghai Jiaotong universities have built a fully optical processor packing more than 2 million photonic neurons. And in published work, they reported over 100-fold better performance than NVIDIA GPUs on specific tasks like image synthesis and style transfer. Another optical chip has been clocked at multiple petaflops on a power budget that would make any facility manager weep with relief. So, this is no longer one clever lab in Stuttgart waving at the future. It's a genuine international race, and it's accelerating faster than most people outside the field realize. When multiple governments start funding the same idea at the same time, that's usually the signal it has stopped being optional, which makes it all the more important to be honest about what this technology still can't do. The honest limitations. Because believing in something doesn't mean pretending its flaws don't exist. The biggest hurdle is one I hinted at earlier. Photonic chips can't store data. There's no practical optical RAM in existence today, so every time the chip needs information that isn't already flowing through it, it has to reach back to conventional electronic memory. And each round trip between the optical world and the electrical world costs you time and energy. Engineers call it the conversion penalty, and depending on the workload, it can quietly eat back a real slice of the efficiency you thought you'd won. The cleanest way I can picture it is this. Imagine building the fastest race car ever made, then discovering your pit crew has to haul the tires in on bicycles. The car is legitimately astonishing, but you're going to lose a lot of time at the pit stop. Researchers are chasing a fix called a photonic latch, an optical version of cache memory that would keep data in the light domain without converting it. But it isn't shipping in anything yet. There's a flexibility problem too. These chips are world-beating at a narrow set of operations, and for general-purpose logic, you still need a CPU or GPU sitting right beside them, which is why every real deployment today is a hybrid. And fabrication is genuinely hard. Thin-film lithium niobate isn't a material the big foundries have spent 40 years perfecting, so yields and long-term reliability still have to be proven at scale. Testing exactly that is part of what the LRZ deployment is for. Which brings us to the question that actually matters. The realistic picture and the timeline. So where does all of this actually leave us? Photonic computing is not about to replace GPUs next year, and your gaming rig is perfectly safe. But that was never the point. What these chips are doing right now is establishing themselves as the only credible answer to an energy problem that's genuinely threatening to throttle the entire AI industry. The arithmetic simply stops working for silicon before long. AI workloads are compounding faster than any power grid can chase, and you cannot keep building a gigawatt facility for every model upgrade. Something has to bend. 90 times lower power per workload is not an efficiency footnote you get to shrug off. It rewrites the economics of the whole operation. My honest read on the timeline runs like this. From now through 2030, photonic coprocessors quietly become standard fixtures inside specialized HPC facilities, scientific research, real-time medical imaging, climate modeling, large-scale AI inference. Past 2030, if the memory problem gets cracked and fabrication scales cleanly, this technology's footprint grows dramatically larger. What QANT has proven at LRZ matters because it's the first solid evidence that computing with light holds together outside a sealed lab under real operational pressure with government backing and institutional access behind it. That's the line between a promising paper and a real technology, and they've stepped across it. Computing with light still sounds like a line lifted from a novel, yet here we are in 2026, watching it run real inference jobs inside a supercomputing center. I genuinely believe we'll look back on this stretch as the moment the ground started to move under the entire industry. If this rewired the way you think about where computing is headed, drop a comment with your take. I read them, and I want to know whether you think silicon fights back or quietly steps aside. Stick around, because this story is only getting started.